No matter how good a story you tell, people are captivated by real-world accomplishment. I ask myself, have I done all that I can for my country and for my family?
As
He's a naval aviator and test pilot that's flown over 40 different aircraft. Your Artemis II pilot, Victor Glover.
I'm looking forward to whatever facet this Artemis II takes on. I'm Victor Glover, NASA astronaut, Navy commander, husband, father. I'm not an adrenaline junkie or looking for extreme experiences out in my real life, because my work life is so chock full of those things that I like to just sit, read a book, and have quiet moments and spend time with my kids. Having been in the Navy for 22 years, it's definitely been a family adventure. I've deployed several times in the Navy on an aircraft carrier, and we had kids every time, a different amount of kids each time. Spending time with my family is the most enjoyable thing that I get to do. What inspired me? My parents. I was born out of wedlock. I didn't live with my mom and my dad at the same time, but they both cared about me becoming the best person I could, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I was in 5th grade, and we had a program called MESA, Mathematics, Engineering, and Science Achievement. What got me into it was building cars powered by mouse traps, building bridges out of popsicle sticks and balsa wood. But our advisor, his name was Mr. Hargrove, and he said to me, he said, you know, if you work hard, you would be a great engineer. His belief in me made me think that I could do it. I'm 45 now. I've got 3 engineering degrees because of Mr. Hargrove telling me that in 5th grade. At the same time, I saw a shuttle launch on television. Astronaut was not even on my radar. I just thought to myself, I want to drive that thing. I want to drive that thing.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
I went to college, was fortunate to wrestle in college while pursuing my engineering education, and so that experience impacted what I thought I wanted to do as a professional. I really enjoyed engineering academically, but I wasn't sure I was ready to just work on design. I wanted to use those designs, and so being an operator and being out doing things was important to me. And one of my mentors, I'm in his office waiting for him to come in. He's one of the few black faculty members at my university. And he comes into the room, and as he steps in, he is in this full regalia, the black suit with the gold around the wrists and the hat. And I was like, wow, sir, when did you enlist? And he said, I'm actually an officer in the Navy Reserves. Boom. The next version of what I could become. And that, to me, was, there's so many lessons I pulled from that, but the power of exposure and seeing yourself in something.
My name is Connor Clinkscale. I'm 15 years old. I
enjoy aviation and space, and I look forward to being a pilot for NASA one day. This is where I take flight lessons and I get flight hours. People other than my friends don't really know much about what I do.
As much as I grind to train for my missions, I am also looking for my replacement. In order to ensure that I have a replacement, I need a pool of young people like Connor.
The first time when I met Victor was in October 2015, and I was 7 years old. I think that is really cool that he's gonna be on one of the first missions back to the moon in 50 years. A few role models in my life are definitely my parents, Charlie Bolden, and Victor Glover. I admire Victor Glover because he's audacious. I think that they're definitely role models for me because they show me that my dreams are possible. All these shirts are from people who solo for the first time. And I'll be soloing on my birthday, which is in May. My parents took me to DC to the Udvar Hazy Space Center, where I first saw the Space Shuttle Discovery, and I was really little. I was standing at about like half the size of the front tire. And I asked my parents if I could fly it today. My mom told me that I could definitely fly it one day. I thought to myself, if I learned to fly this plane, surely I could fly the space shuttle one day. I think that is very important and motivating to see people who look like you, and it's important for people to see a version of themselves.
I joined the Navy in college because of representation, seeing a black reserve officer on my campus, and I'm finishing my combat tour, and I go to test pilot school. I go into test pilot school, and we, as a class, have to go to a conference. And at this conference, the keynote speaker is Pam Melroy, who is, I believe, the second female shuttle commander. She tells the story about the cufflinks. They use the cufflinks.
On my command flight, STS-120, we had a problem. While we were unfolding a solar array on the International Space Station, it ripped. And that was a very, very serious crisis for the station. The solution was a set of so-called cufflinks, which were really just a way to stitch up the solar array and make sure that it had structural integrity. It was an extraordinarily dangerous spacewalk. It was really the pinnacle of my experience.
And she tells that story, and that's the day I decided, all right, I'm throwing an application in.
We'll never forget my first meeting with Victor. He introduced himself to me. He told me about hearing the story about the cufflinks. He just had this extraordinarily thoughtful approach to things. In about 3 minutes, I had it figured out that this was somebody who was probably going to be an astronaut.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that NASA has selected America's next generation of space explorers. Women and men who are committed to ensuring that our nation leads the world in exploration.
I was sitting at my desk in the Russell Senate Office building when I worked for John McCain. And I got a phone call from a Houston phone number, and I grabbed my cell phone, I ran out in the hallway, and by the time I answered, I missed it. And so I called back. I was transferred to Janet Kavandi, who was the chair of our board, and she asked me if I wanted to come to Houston.
These new astronauts we are introducing today will help us to continue to lead the world in exploration.
Training for your first mission. There's the basic competencies, I guess, flying T-38s, the high-performance jet flying that we do, the NBL training, the diving in the full pressure suit, the space suit, to train for spacewalks.
As I've gotten to know Victor, he's an extraordinary pilot. He's enormously technically competent, but also he takes that leadership aspect, that teamwork aspect, so much to heart.
I'm very glad I kind of stumbled upon flying as a career, but the other thing I loved doing was working with students. Being in a classroom is one of the most meaningful things I've ever done, even to this day.
I often find myself, tough times having a lack of motivation. I often tell myself I can't do something. If something gets too difficult, I see myself kind of like almost giving up. How do I stay motivated?
One thing that I think about, but it can also be the power to keep going. I love thinking about the civil rights era, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. They had bags in their hands. They didn't make those sandwiches. There was a party making sandwiches, and then there was a different group of people that took the sandwiches to the people, and then there was a different group of people directing them to get on the buses. They were organized, right? And that work was done so you could sit in this seat. And when you think about that, our legacy runs from the very beginning up to you right now.
It's deep, bro.
It's your job to keep going. And sometimes that can seem like a burden, but it's also a privilege. There's not always going to be somebody there to cheer you on. So that's one of the important parts of learning and getting around groups of people like this that are diverse. You learn and you add another facet, you put another tool in your toolbox. I am surrounded by love and support, and it's humbling and overwhelming sometimes. I'm a father to 4 beautiful daughters, and even with a military career and being deployed, and one thing that goes through my mind constantly at the end of a day is knowing that my wife and my children are safe.
Today, sending 4 astronauts into orbit: Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi are flying on a 6-month mission to the International Space Station. Glover will be the first Black astronaut to fly on a commercial spacecraft and the first Black long-duration crew member to live aboard the International Space Station.
When I got assigned, my wife and I were actually on vacation, and we had some time to just talk about what this meant for our family and what it meant for us individually.
Outside the ONC building, we have friends and family gathered there for final goodbyes prior to liftoff.
This is, I think, what a lot of the folks that go to test pilot school dream of doing. There aren't many opportunities to work on a new spacecraft. My overriding thought when I envision us getting to that point is, don't screw up.
It's one thing to know something intellectually, but another thing to feel it in your bones. That 10,
9, 8, 7
was the first time I was, this is really about to happen. I'm leaving the planet, y'all, and it just got here.
And resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all.
The video just doesn't do it justice. It is pretty amazing, though.
We have one member of our crew who does not have the appropriate accoutrement for his uniform, and so we're to be able to give Victor Glover his gold astronaut pin for passing 100 kilometers. Congratulations.
Let us know if you are go for approach to and docking.
And there they are, first across the hatch, Mike Hopkins. And here's Victor Glover.
Marker 2. Mark it. There we go.
So I just start questioning?
Yep.
Yeah. I was scared for you. Were you scared? Like, were you ever scared?
Well, scared is the wrong word to use. I have a respect for these things. Your whole life, I've flown high-performance aircraft, deployed on ships, and those all have dangers, risks associated with them. It makes me want to work very hard because I want to come back home to you all.
You told us about a launching of a different aircraft, and it exploded. Like, they didn't make it. And that terrified me. I learned that people train you for this stuff, and they're there to make sure that doesn't happen. So it made me feel a lot better. But, you know, there's always the what if. I have a respect for the things that I do and the risks that come with that. The thing that I had the most discomfort or the biggest emotional response to was leaving you all.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No
That, hey, that was that stressful period where Dad was gone a lot. Flying the spaceship is one piece. There's also the very important mission of being on the International Space Station. We will conduct spacewalks to upgrade and keep the space station flying and healthy. We will do maintenance inside to keep the space station running. We will use that orbiting laboratory to conduct science, or really to do the hands-on part of the science experiments that happen on space station.
The crew would just all gather around the table. We'd float around the table and pass food and snacks and tell stories about what worked, what didn't work, and talk about each other's families.
What did you think about our video conferences? You remember what we did for most of them?
Yeah.
What?
Charades.
I never felt like I had to go, come on, guys, Dad's calling from space. Because at some point, right, even it's still neat that Dad's calling from space, but like after 167 days, Dad's calling from space. You know?
I don't think it was ever like that. It like major, I don't want to go. Because you made a great impression the first time we played when you did Escalator.
That was my high point. My charades Escalator was...
Because you could just float.
Weightlessness, right? I mean, you know, it was good.
We got it right away.
Please stand by for the Vice President of the United States.
Victor, can you see me? Can you hear me? It's Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm calling from the White House.
Madam Vice President, welcome to the International Space Station.
When he first got interested in space, he was an astronaut for Halloween, but then he just kept wearing it. Well, he didn't call it a costume, he called it his uniform. I think that every parent feels in some shape, form, or fashion that their child could potentially change the world. What we really like to do is listen intently to our children. We started having conversations about the vastness of the universe and the vastness of space. And when my husband pointed to the moon and told Connor that there were actual footprints there, Connor's response was, how do I get there?
My family has always supported me. They've always supported my dreams and what I wanted to do. One reason that I really like flying is because of the overall experience.
Young and not so young.
Parents told me that if I learned to fly,
One of the most important things to your ability to achieve success is your understanding and definition of what success is. So number one is to be gritty, G-R-I-T-T-Y, to be gritty. It means not quitting. And the greatest challenges you'll ever experience are from within. And if you can control these challenges, external challenges are no big deal. Number two, be a lifelong learner. Learning inside and outside the classroom, your ability to acquire skills is the thing that really is gonna be so valuable to you in the future. The last one is to be a good teammate. It's the people to your left and your right, because it takes the focus off of yourself. I think this job highlights something that maybe several people deal with. I've dealt with throughout my 22 years serving our country. There's these terms, I think, in psychology or sociology called imposter syndrome and survivor's guilt. And being selected for this job, you can't help but to think of, I've got so many friends that I know could do this job well. And that feeling of, wow, why didn't they get it? Why'd they pick me? That's the survivor's guilt piece. And imposter syndrome is just, feeling like you're not really good enough, cut out for the job. And I felt all of those things. And I would say that doubt, being a father, a husband, all of those things come with doubt. And my life hasn't been about trying to get rid of the doubt. It's just trying to get comfortable with it and being able to still take one step at a time and be prepared for whatever's coming at you. Because anything you practice, you can get good at. And so I think you have to learn to get comfortable with the doubt